Well, continuing on, looking at the DCU slate that James Gunn announced about a little less than a month ago. So I went through the main ones individually. The last three I'll do all in one. So Booster Gold, and certainly in James Gunn's hands. I guess it's supposed to be a TV series, I think. Total Fenders, So, yeah, HBO Max series. So that's what that'll be. And a lot of people are pushing for Chris Pratt to play the character, which, in a lot of ways, that would be perfect casting because his Star-Lord is Booster Gold. That's more Booster Gold than Star-Lord. Because really the Guardians of the Galaxy movie bears very little resemblance to the comic book iterations of it. And I know they changed it and made it this new version in contemporary times with the Marvel Universe and all that. And it is those characters, but they're all so very different. He just rewrote it. So, but it worked, and, it became a popular franchise. We'll see how that goes with the third outing, but it's the last round, so whatever. But another problem is, if it done the Booster Gold movie way back when instead of Guardians of the Galaxy, because Chris Pratt was of the age, now he's much older. I thought age was a factor here. If you can't have Henry Cavill being Superman, how can you have Chris Pratt being Booster Gold? Because it changes up the story about this idiot guy who uses future tech to make himself a superhero in the past. But it's a repetitive thing. It's like, oh, well, Chris Pratt is now typecast playing the same character over and over again, which is why I thought the better challenge would be for him to play Hal Jordan. Now, again, Hal Jordan would be older, and because he'd be Chris Pratt's age, but in the narrative that appears to be the case that they're going with the Lantern series of he's the mentor to a younger John Stewart, then I think Chris Pratt would fit right nicely in that, and it would be a different role. There's comedic elements to Hal Jordan. He was a bit of a ladies' man and that type of thing, but it's also more of a challenge of him to be a more mature and a serious character in the fact that he has to be the mentor, not the goofy young idiot. And so I thought that would be the better option for it, but it's probably going to be him, I guess, But anyway, it's a silly story. It's had different variations of it over the years, and when they paired him up with Ted Kord's Blue Beetle, they made a good Beavis and Butthead comedy team for the Justice League and all that. I don't know if they'll do like if Ted Kord exists as having been a Blue Beetle in this universe, because they've already cast, it's the third Blue Beetle for the first Blue Beetle movie, Jaime Reyes, and I imagine he'll fit in just fine with their new rebooted universe and all that. This is just going to be a Blue Beetle movie. Who's to say what universe it's in, But there again, Jaime and Booster, that doesn't work. They're not contemporaries and all that. So, I don't know. Would they make a nod to that or say it happened? I don't know. Would the Blue Beetle movie acknowledge that there were these other Blue Beetles? Maybe. And toss in something that there was this relationship at some time earlier on, that they're jumping around different eras of their DCU, and they could do that. Problem is, what if that takes off and is really popular? You got to move on with your new Blue Beetle. So, a lot of the popular aspects of what happened with this character, well, it's you're kind of the corners have been all painted and you're stuck where you are, So, I don't know, but it is a character that I think a guy like this would fit more to James Gunn's abilities than the likes of Superman. So, it might work. So this I have no hope for, not because it is Supergirl, but because of the writer and the inspiration they're looking to. So Gunn's like, oh, this is based on Tom King. Wonderful comic. I guess Vic was the artist, but Tom King wrote it. I did not read it because I figured out Tom King after Mr. Miracle. He fooled me then. He would fit in great with the Bad Robot crowd. Once you've realized it's all a tease, never again. So I doubt that maybe this is good. It's something and just, once in a while accidentally did something. It doesn't sound like it, but the idea that Supergirl would not be just a female Superman, that she had a different introduction to Earth and everything, and she remembers Krypton and her whole life. She was a teenager when it ended. All that really does make sense, and that she'd be a rather angry person, depressed, and she's got to come around on that. And they did that with New 52, how they introduced her. I didn't like it, not so much because of Supergirl, but because how they had Superman just like, well, she's got to find her own way, and he just wipes his hands over. I mean, that's not Superman, I mean, his only family, and he's like, oh my God, you survived, all this sort of stuff. He would have taken an interest in her and would have taken her in and all that. Sure, it would be difficult because of the attitudes and her alien personality to Earth, Eventually, they had her being a part of Legion of Superheroes, which would have been a better fit for her because that's a futuristic society, a lot closer to what she's used to, the way life was on Krypton. But anyway, that whole idea that she wasn't all that interested in Earth, that didn't really appeal to her. She comes around to being heroic and doing the right thing and all that, and that's fine. But it had already been done, so they're making a big deal about this journey of Supergirl through space and stuff. And discovering herself and nobody understands it. It's not fair, man, a whole movie of that. But what's odd is that it's all going to take place in outer space and sounds expensive. Whereas Superman, well, he's going to be a cub reporter, Clark Kent. They're hoping that the Superman movie makes a lot of money, so they have more money to play with for a movie like this. If that doesn't go quite well, they're going to have to probably change plans based on what pile of cash they have to play with. But so the Supergirl movie sounds like the most expensive one so far. And compared to Superman and the TV shows, because even the Lanterns the Lanterns aren't going to be in outer space. They're going to be terrestrial based, doing true detective stories. So, but Supergirl, she gets to fly to alien worlds and stuff. Yeah, well, I mean, granted, she'll be standing around in the volume screening room, but still. So I guess that's the idea. It's like by the time you get to Supergirl, there's no specific date for it. So this could be, I don't know, 2026, 2027 maybe. And that by then, if the DCU is working and functioning, then they can splurge a little on that. So, but I'm not optimistic about it because Tom King. I don't trust the man. He fooled me once, and I just haven't heard anything that's all that great. It all sounds rather stupid. It seems to have gotten worse. When I read the premise to Heroes in Crisis, forget it. It's like I don't even know what all the plot lines and whatnot, but the basic premise and plot of it was so stupid to begin with. And apparently it was just there to destroy Wally West. That's just stupid. So, yeah, not optimistic about Supergirl, and that's a shame. And apparently Sasha Calle will not be Supergirl, even though apparently people in the screen test liked her in the Flash, so I guess that's a one and done thing. And by the time they get to it, she'd be much older, so I guess they'll want to cast yet again another younger unknown actor who is also cheap. Oh, well, anyway, that's the deal. And of course, they're two different characters, so it'll be very different. She won't be like Clark, and yeah, okay. So anyway, finally Swamp Thing, which has an awful lot of potential. And so this one, probably another potential for greatness here. and to build out of it on their Justice League Dark. They've been chasing that for years. Guillermo del Toro was attached to that, and then J.J. Abrams. Apparently that's over with. Thank God. And I think James Wan was going to build one out of the Swamp Thing series that they did, which failed. There was a lot of shenanigans involved in that. That wasn't just the show's fault, but all in all, it was a pretty good show. There were some flaws in it, and it was more Abby Arcane meeting, the Swamp Thing being a guest star in his own show, but still, it wasn't that bad. And so another go at it, and apparently they're chasing James Mangold to do it. And despite all the Indiana Jones stuff, I mean, they may move on to someone else, because if that thing's the disaster that it sounds like it's going to be, he may take the full blame for it, even though probably isn't all his fault, because he's not really in charge when it comes to Lucasfilm. But a good Swamp Thing film can go a long way, and the question remains, would it be connected to Keanu Reeves' Constantine film? Would he be a part of the DCU? Is that the deal, or is Constantine 2 just to be another Elseworlds project? Probably more the latter, but we'll see. But a Swamp Thing film would be something to lay the groundwork for those sort of things. It'd probably just be guest appearances or cameos or whatnot, or nods to it that could leave open the possibility for that later, depending on the success of the film. And so that's why it would garner attention for people who are fans of it. But for the most part, it probably would just do it as this horror movie of this monster, and then you find out the real story. And that could go a long way and work too. So there they go. The final film we wanted to talk about is Swamp Thing. We bring it up because it's important to point out that in these stories, although they're interconnected, they're not all tonally the same. Each set of filmmakers brings their own aesthetic to these films, and the fun is seeing how these tonally different works mash up in the future. This is a film that will investigate the dark origins of Swamp Thing. We are actually developing a few other things as well, but for one reason or another, we can't say that. This is the first batch of stuff. Okay. Yeah, so the dark origins of Swamp Thing, well, and I mean, it's kind of been tweaked here and there. They'll probably stick with the Alan Moore version. The show did, and all of that. And, of course, how you look at it, you could still say it's Alec Holland, so if you want. But anyway, it probably would be more full-on horror film. And that's the idea. It's like, yeah, it's a shared universe, but not everything will be exactly the same. There's a trick to it, and done well. They can pull this off. And for a Justice League Dark, where these supernatural characters come together, and to maintain that tone, so it's not just, oh, it's another Justice League, and they're just a little more weird. That I don't think that would be good enough. But if a crossover between a Justice League and a Justice League Dark involving some magic supernatural menace would be a possibility as well. However they play that out, but they got to start somewhere, and Swamp Thing is as good a place as any, especially since that's what introduced a character like Constantine. So yeah, of these three, Swamp Thing I think is the best of the batch and has the most potential, but it doesn't quite have the name recognition of Supergirl, so they got that hill to climb. But yeah, I think Swamp Thing does have potential. So there we go. The rest of this article at Inside Pulse delves into the list, and they go into the Elseworlds films. Of course, that's right now is Joker and the Batman and all that. So, and it kind of sounds like that. I was thinking that they kind of want the Batman to wrap up its story by the time they get to Brave and the Bold, and that would clear up any confusion and whatnot as they go forward. So that'll be the deal. Supposedly the J.J. Abrams Superman project is also still a thing, but I seriously doubt that. So either Constantine 2 will join Elseworlds, or it will be their Constantine. I don't know. That's the only question there. But so there we go. Swamp Thing, Supergirl, and Booster Gold round out the choices for DCU's glorious future. Or, well, maybe not. But time will tell, right, Booster? Yeah, it will. Thanks, Booster.